Hi guys, welcome back to the Flutter Benders channel. It's been a while you guys saw me, and trust me, I'm so excited to be back on your screens. Today we are going to be learning how to create this flipped card animation in Flutter, and trust me, this is something very easy. So without further ado guys, just go in with me. So as not to waste our time, we have created a basic widget here that has a scaffold with a center as the body and then a container as the child. The first thing we will do is to set out the properties of our container. Now here we have our rotation radians, which determines how well our container rotates. This is the default width and height of our container. And then a property called is flipped, which can either be true or false. And then we have the milliseconds of the delay of our animation. Once we get into this, we're going to understand what all of these properties are going to do. The next thing is to change our container into an animated container. We are going to set the duration to be the milliseconds that we created here. We are going to give our container a default height and width, which is what we created here. We are also going to give this container a decoration and pass in a border radius, which is going to be the default height and width divided by 6. The reason why is just to ensure that this actually has a well-defined border radius. We are also going to give our container a linear gradient with two colors, colors.blue and colors.purple. The next thing we're going to do is to wrap our animated container inside the gesture detector widget, so we can make use of the untap property. So let's go ahead to do that. Now, how do we make our animated container rotate? There's a property called transform inside an animated container. This is also available in a container actually. So, but the reason why we're using an animated container is to ensure that the transition from the previous size of the card to the next one is actually very smooth. So to do this, we're going to be making use of the transform property. And when you take a look at this transform property, you are going to see that it takes a matrix 4 transform. So what exactly is matrix 4 in Flutter? See matrix 4 as a class that represents a 4x4 matrix, often used for transformations in 3D graphics or advanced 2D graphics. A matrix is just a grid of 4 numbers, right? Think of it as a way to organize data. In this case, a 4x4 matrix means it has 4 rows and 4 columns. And the good thing about this matrix is that you can use it to either translate your widget, rotate it or scale it, or do other perspective distortions. So in this our case, what we're going to be using it for is to actually rotate our widgets. The next thing we're going to do is to call the matrix 4 class and call the rotation y method, then passing these rotation radians into the rotation y method. So what are we trying to achieve here? We have rotation y, we have rotation x, and we have rotation z. So what does rotation y do? You know, the x-axis means from left to right, and the y-axis means from top to bottom. So see this as you trying to create a line from the top of the widget to the bottom, then trying to rotate the widget around that line that you have created. That is what we're trying to do here. Now, when we save our widgets, this is what we have, right? So this is not rotating yet. How is the magic going to happen? Well, this is why we have the gesture detector widget here. The next thing we are going to do is declare the untap property of our gesture detector, then put all of our logic here. So what is this? The first thing we are going to be doing is that for every time that we tap on this card, this if is flipped property. If it's false, we turn it to true, and if it's true, we turn it to false. Then the second condition is checking that if we have flipped our card, then we want to set our rotation radians to be 3.14. Now, this is math.py, and what this means is that we are trying to rotate it 360 degrees on the y-axis. So instead of going ahead to code this 3.14, we are just going to import the .math library. We have imported the .math library as math. Then we'll change this to math.py. So what we're saying is that if it is flipped, our rotation radians is going to be math.py, else it's going to be 0. And also if it is flipped, our default height and width is going to be 300. And if not, it's going to be 200. So by the way, let's just make this 250 so that this looks quite bold. Now let's restart our code, and then let's try to see what happens when we tap on the card. So we can see that while we try to tap on this card, right, it remained on the left-hand side of the screen. The reason why this happens is that by default, the alignment in a container, right, is at the top left corner. So what we're going to do is to set the transform alignment here, and then set the transform alignment to be alignment dot center. And then when we save, the moment we try to tap on our card, we'll see that this actually gives us the behavior that we want, right? And then we can see that initially the purple color is on the right hand side, the blue color is on the left hand side. But the moment we rotate, the purple comes to the left hand side, and then the blue comes to the right hand side. So how do we also ensure that this is actually rotating? We are then going to be setting the text that is in the middle of the container. Now, the next thing we're going to be doing is to give our container, our animated container, a child called future builder. And what are we trying to achieve with this is that when we try to put the text in the container, we want to ensure that the text shifts to both front and back at the exact time that we want it to. So what we're doing is that we're delaying this is flipped value here that we created by the duration of our animation divided by 2. Pretty much we're truncating it here. The next thing we're going to do is to then give the child of our future builder a text that indicates that when this is flipped, we want you to show back. If not, we want you to show front. If you then take a look at our simulator, you will notice that the front text is aligning somewhere at the top left corner. Remember that I made mention of this, that by default, the alignment of the container is at the top left corner. What we're then going to be doing is to set the alignment of the container now to alignment.center. And you can see that our text comes to the center. Now, when we flip our card, you can see that the back shows up here. And then when we unflip, let me use that English, it shows front. So how then do we ensure that this back is not inverted this way? To do this, we are going to wrap our text with a container. We're also going to set the transform alignment property. Also, we are going to be setting the transform property here. And we're also going to be using the rotation Y method since we want the text to also rotate on the Y axis. So what are we doing here? We're checking that if our snapshot has data, that means if this card is flipped, we want the rotation of our text to be math.pi, else we want it to be 0. The moment we save this, we're going to see that our back text then rotates back to its normal position. So when we then go ahead to click on our card, we see that this rotates back to front, and then when we click on it, it goes back to here. So you can do, different modifications to it. You can actually delay your animation. For example, I could decide I want to delay this animation by 1 second, which is going to be 1000 milliseconds. And when I restart this, the moment I come back here and then I click on it, you see how slow the animation comes in. I hope you guys have been able to learn something here, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe this video to other Flutter developers too. I'll see you guys in the next class. Peace.